the fall in momentum at West Ham is pretty remarkable, actually. It's honestly something to behold, isn't it? When you look at it and you think how quickly we've gone from this kind of promise of change and it's sort of and a build-up of excitement and a bit of promise of what possibly the season could bring and beyond, in terms of having a new head coach, working alongside a director of football or technical director, and we've got all this money to spend and we're going to go and invest it and really sort of start a new chapter at West Ham, wasn't it, over the summer? It felt like there was so much reason for optimism, and it's just drained. It's completely drained. It's actually astonishing that we are, what are we now? Not even mid-November yet, and it feels like there's just nothing left. It's just West Ham fans and everyone connected with the club. It's just so flat at the moment, and it's really hard, isn't it, to be optimistic now when you look at the summer recruitment. And I'm really, by the way, I'm not signing up to this belief that the summer recruitment was terrible and it was awful and anything like that. I do think there's been some signings that are looking promising, and I still think that could become decent players for our club beyond this season. But ultimately, things aren't working in terms of gelling with the head coach. We know that. I've talked about it enough on the channel. I don't really want to make this a video just talking about Lopetegui, to be honest. Obviously, there's going to be plenty more of those. This is more about the recruitment side of things and the update we've had from EXWHUEMPLOYEE. But obviously, I need to talk about the collapse in momentum because it is linked to the signings. We had all these new players come through, 9 players in total. And now we've got some serious question marks, haven't we? Over a few, certainly. And it's not necessarily on the players. It's more like, why have we signed them? You look at Lewis Guilherme, for instance, that's kind of one straight away. You jump out at you and think, 20-odd million pounds spent on an 18-year-old player that I don't really know what we're doing with him. Like, what's the plan here? He's not really playing. He gets thrown on for a few minutes here and there. He's not going to be part of the under-21s. He's not going to be sent out on loan. So you kind of going, well, what was the point then? And I'm not seeing anything from him. Do you know what I mean? I'm not watching it. He doesn't come on and go, wow, look at this guy. He's lightning speed or he's doing something amazing. He just looks okay. Do you know what I mean? I just don't quite get what we've done there. That's not to say he's going to turn out to be a bad player. I'm not saying he's an awful sign. He might turn out to be great for West Ham, but my word, it feels a long way off. And then you've got other players. Nicholas Fulkrug, of course, being the main one because of the fact he's injured as well. And that's not his fault, of course, but it's just looking like a disastrous signing. But I'll tell you what it is, whose fault it is the clubs. And Tim Steidton, understandably, was the main driver behind his signing a player that's injury prone. Just not good enough. It's things like that have just drained the momentum of this season. Obviously, there's plenty more reasons for that. I'm not just saying it's just on that, but it's a factor, isn't it, that we've got these players and they're just struggling. They really are. And the recruitment has been odd. Let's get it straight. When you look at West Ham and how we've gone about our business this summer, don't get me wrong, there was plenty of excitement of players coming in, but it was quite clear. I always think back to the when we signed Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and I always found it odd, and it was talked about on lots of channels, wasn't it? And written about on websites about how the fact we wanted Kyle Walker-Peters, that was our number one target, and then we went for Wan-Bissaka. And it always was a bit odd because they're so different, It was always a bit of a mix. You're thinking, I thought we were coming away from this. I thought we were looking for types of players rather than we're just looking for a right back. Whereas it turns out that feels like what we've done. We need a striker. We want John Duran, that 20-year-old. Oh, we can't get him. Oh, we'll get a 31-year-old then, slow striker. It just didn't. It's really odd. It's not good. It's not a good look for West Ham. But one of the promising signings so far, and I think it's fair to say, and actually, in fact, so far, I'll go as far as saying it looks more like the hammer of the year for me so far, is Crescencio Somerville, who I've been really impressed with. I thought he's been really good. And I'll tell you what I love about him. It's like he really works hard. He really tries. He wants to do well. You can see this hunger and desire. And that's what I want to talk about Championship players, because the update from EXWHUEMPLOYEE is that West Ham are looking at the Championship market. That is what we're going to be doing going forward. They feel like they've explored this. They're trying out ways of working here, aren't West Ham? We know what we're like, and it just feels like nothing's ever really working properly. I'm just going to put up the article now, actually, while I'm going to go through this, because I feel that's the right thing to do, so I can actually talk about it a bit more detail, what was actually said by X in his update. But basically, it's that West Ham are going to try and go back to a more trusted model, where we're feeling like we've had more success than failures over in the past in terms of going for the top performing Championship players. We talked about it so much on this channel. I don't understand why we don't do it more. I've never really got why we're so adverse to going for these players that are lighting up the Championship, doing really well, and clearly have a hunger and desire to get to that Premier League, to get to the top level and perform. I just feel like it's such an obvious route to go down. When you're going to do your recruitment every year, you should explore that market and see who is the top performers and see where they can possibly fit into your team. Because you've only got to look at West Ham's success in recent years in terms of players coming in from the Championship and how well they've done. And obviously you can go back to Aaron Creswell, of course, a decade at West Ham now, coming from Ipswich. Similar for Mikel Antonio, been what a signing, coming from Nottingham Forest at the time. Of course, they were in the Championship. Obviously he came from the non-league group, didn't he? Antonio, you've got Jared Bowen, unbelievable signing. Has gone on to now become an England regular, and has got plenty more years to come, and West Ham captain and stuff. And so I always find it a bit baffling why then we go so desperately abroad while we were trying to. I get that the value of money. I do understand that the market in the Championship can be expensive. As X has said in his update, I'm going to read it in a minute. He has stressed that he's not necessarily saying that's all we're going to do is look at the Championship, but they realise that we are just basically wasting too much money on gambles from abroad. That's basically what he's trying to say. So this is I'm going to just read you the article in a second, but I've got two views on this, right? And I've said my first bit here, which is why I like us going to the Championship. I like us going for players that are performing well at that level. It's not just because in England they're settled, etc. Well, don't get me wrong, that's a big tick. I think that's already a big tick that you've got them settled here. They know the country, they're settled down. A lot of them could be, from this country anyway, but they've been here for a period of time anyway. And I just feel like when you're in the Championship and you're performing so well, to get that opportunity to come to the Premier League, there just seems to be this hunger. We're seeing it from Somerville, aren't we? We saw it from Bowen. Just that absolute desire, like, here's my chance. I'm on the top stage now. I want to go and do well. And I just feel like you see that. It's so obvious when you watch them play, this determination to do well. And I feel like it rubs off on other players. And you're looking at Somerville this season, and he's already demonstrating that. So I like it. This is the article, actually, of what's come up. And this is actually one of them himself. So I'm just going to read out what was said. Okay. West Ham are looking to shift the focus on player recruitment going forward. It's been reported by EXWHUEMPLOYEE. The club have overseen a significant level of squad investment during the summer transfer window, with 9 new arrivals heading to East London, which cost the club circa £130 million minus the existing player sales. It was an investment to align with the arrival of Julian Lopetegui, who is operating as head coach alongside Tim Steidten. However, at present, the return on the pitch has failed to bear fruit. As pressure continues to mount following the poor start to the season, the club are understood to be reviewing the transfer strategy, with serious question marks over the purchases made on players who appear far off making a positive impact. Reporting on the West Ham Way Patreon, EXWHUEMPLOYEE now advised that the club are eager to place more of a focus on the top-performing Championship players with a desire to look at players who are young and hungry to succeed at Premier League level. This is what I just think is so important. Now, this is the quote from X, okay? He said, although things are not great at present, one positive in the club's emphasis is that they really want to give a firm focus on is the top-performing Championship players going forward. It's a model that seems to work very well for West Ham, so it's frustrating that we haven't prioritised this market more, especially this summer. And I couldn't agree more. Crescencio Somerville is arguably our best-performing signing so far. He came from Leeds in the Championship. Then there is Bowen, Antonio, and Creswell. As I said, name a few that have done very well since making the step up. It appears now there's a real focus on this, with a clear issue coming from some who are struggling to adapt to the English game, and it takes so much time for them to settle. Although this doesn't mean we won't be looking elsewhere, we understand the club are scouting at the moment in the Championship with a desire to recruit players who are on the right age and show a real hunger to be a success. We've heard this so many times from West Ham, haven't we? We want young players. We want players that are going to come with this. I'm going to change the kind of landscape a little bit in terms of the club. We want these younger breed of players that are going to build this team. We keep hearing it. We don't see it enough as far as I'm concerned. I really think we are lacking in that department. We don't feel like we're building something. It always feels like we're just sort of paper over in issues. You know what I mean? Putting plasters on things to try and sort it. I really wish there could be a bit more of a coherent plan. See, so I'm happy to hear this in terms of the Championship. I do think it's a good thing. I do think that West Ham need to do this. I feel like the club should be prioritising looking at Championship, as I've said. There is a drawback to it, though, and the issue, which is going to be a big problem, I think, is David Sullivan. And the reason I say that is because David Sullivan was the man behind and the big driver behind getting Somerville in the summer. Effectively, it was his signing. He was the player that he is the one he organised. He felt that he was the right player to go and get. And he's annoyingly, in a way, not annoyingly, I don't use that word because I do like the fact Somerville's doing well, but it's going to feed the ego of Sullivan. I feel like this is going to cause a problem because he will now undoubtedly be thinking, well, why have I hired you then? Why am I hiring a director of football, etc.? Why am I hiring people to tell me the players to go and get when I've now given you money to go and get players? And the one I wanted has turned out to be the best signing. I feel like that's going to cause a problem for us as West Ham fans, to be honest. I feel like that could be an issue. I think it's an issue for Tim Steidten. Tim Steidten has got a lot to answer for this summer, let's be honest. I mean, look, some signings I think have been all right. I'm not saying it's all been a complete disaster, but the striker situation's bad, really bad. And let's be honest, the pressure on striker recruitment was massive this summer. It was a real big one. We've all been saying it. It's something that we never seem to get right. Steidten's now come in and it's like, right, over to you, Pearl Diver. Over to you, Mr. Genius. Go and find us a striker. And this is what we've got to come up with. 31-year-old injury-prone German is currently doing a game show in Germany at the moment while we're languishing down the bottom of the league. This ain't good. Do you know what I mean? This is not a good look for Tim Steidten. And it worries me. It worries me now with Sullivan and his mind, especially with that and what's happened with Somerville. So, although it's good in terms of Championship players, I like Championship players. I really do. I think it's a market we should explore more. As I say, it feels a bit tried and tested with West Ham. It feels like a good model. It's almost as if as well, I think there's a kind of an arm around them from the fans in a way. Do you know what I mean? I feel like the fans, we kind of like to see a player come up from the lower league to come into West Ham and try it and do well and show their ability and say, yeah, come on, this is it now. You're at West Ham, you're at the Premier League, come and show us what you got, you know? I feel like it's almost as if not like they're academy players, but because that's what we want to see more of course. But I mean, you're looking at the likes of Ollie Scholes, of course, I think is making the steps up. We want to see do well with I've got Lewis Orford, of course, doing well. George, if you're doing so well at the moment at Bristol City. I mean, and it's got called up to England as well, which is just amazing. I'm so pleased for him. So there's that side of it we want to see more of. But I feel like with Championship players, you do tend to get that, or even League One. You know, if they come into take that step up, it's almost like fans just really want to see them do well. It feels better than when we get players from, they don't really know, and you're not really sure whether they've got that love for the club. And let's be honest, we have lacked that, haven't we, with a fair few. You do feel like we don't really see enough of it. Because there's something wrong at West Ham at the moment. There really is. There's something just not right. And I feel like the recruitment doesn't help at times when we're not getting the right people and the right characters in for the door. Where does it leave Tim Steidten? That's a big question now. I mean, I feel like this is the way this season is shaping up. It feels like it's starting to crumble. Everything at West Ham is starting to crumble down. You know, the whole promise of this season, this whole line of head coach and we're going to be more of a streamlined approach. I feel like it's already going in the bin. I feel like David Sullivan's probably going to be thinking, well, why am I paying for this guy? And he's got evidence, hasn't he, now? With the Somerville situation, he's got evidence to lean on, and that's more worrying. And I think it's a really worrying time for West Ham. But that being said, although it's, that does concern me, I like the fact West Ham look at Championship players. I really hope that's what we're going to be doing more of going forward. Apparently, that's going to be the case, and it may well be the case in January. And I just hope that Julian Lopetegui's got nothing to do with it and will not be part of the club when we do.